Welcome to the Trekupward radio show. Tonight we have our woman's only section. And tonight we have a special guest. Boy, do we have a show for you. And this guest is going to transform you and me, hopefully. I sure need it. And I think every one of us walking on this planet Earth need to take a look inside and see what the heck the darn is. We have Dr. Parham, an organizational development consultant and professor. She earned her BA from Smith College, and she has a PhD from the University of Texas at Austin, and she is an expert on transforming your shame into worthiness. Transforming your shame into worthiness. We are worthy. All of us, every one of us are worthy. And every negative thought that you have in your brain is a big fat lie as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Jean. I agree with you 100%. We all could say every morning, I am worthy, I am worthy, I am worthy.
That reminds me of Donald Trump, quite frankly, because he always comes out and says, we are winning. And I know his first teacher when he was a little boy was Norman Vincent Peale, who was the power of positive thinking.
Yes.
He was he made fiats like that. You say
yes, and when we use his works to do fiats and to do affirmations and to help change our thinking about ourselves, that's one of the ways that we start to transform our shame into worthiness.
Well, I know we all have it. What exactly is shame, just out of curiosity?
Shame is a very deep-seated emotion, and it underlies every other emotion that we might have. And a shame is really a deep-seated feeling of despair, despondency. I don't feel like I should be a human being or alive kind of feeling. It's kind of the worst feeling you could ever have that underlies depression and those kinds of emotions, sadness.
So basically the fetal position mood.
Yes, when you want to just go hide somewhere, you are feeling shame. And that's why nobody talks about shame, because it is the hidden emotion. And if you think about it, when we name emotions that are negative, sadness, anger, hate, fear, we don't think of shame because it is hidden and much of it is subconscious. So trying to do this workshop has been a challenge because you don't want to depress people. You want people to come away lighter and feeling like they've shed some of this shame.
Tell me what workshop you're doing. I'm excited.
This workshop is called Transforming Your Shame into Worthiness, and it's my opportunity in life to do what I think many of us want to do, to combine our professional lives. For me, that's psychology, with our spiritual lives. For me, that's the teaching of the Ascended Masters, with our family lives and home lives and friend lives, and integrate all of those in a way that supports me being a more whole person.
What is the teachings of the Ascended Masters?
The Ascended Masters are the saints. The Catholic Church calls people saints. You know that Mother Teresa just became a saint, so she is now an Ascended Master. Jesus Christ is an Ascended Master. So the people who, we believe in my church in reincarnation, and that Earth is a schoolroom, and we're trying to graduate from planet Earth to go back to heaven to be with God. So the Ascended Masters help us learn how to do that.
And what organization is that?
That is the Summit Lighthouse, and the Keepers of the Flame Fraternity, and the Church Universal and Triumphant. So if you go to www.tsl.org, you can learn all about the teachings of the Ascended Masters and who they are and who the saints are and how they can each one help us with different things.
Yeah, I'm an astrologer, and I try to take energy and explain it. And I think one of the things about all of this walk in life is to kind of look at life as if it's a giant schoolroom, which it is, and we're in kindergarten. And the goal of life is to graduate, but you can't graduate until you pass your test. And so I think shame might be one of our tests. What do you think?
I think so, too. I think it's one of our harder tests. I think we start to deal with smaller tests first, and then we get to bigger tests. And so shame is a big test. because most of what we feel as shame started before we were 7 years old. Can you believe that whatever shame you feel now started before you were 7, and it's just been reinforced at different times in your life?
How do you know that?
Well, you can trace it back. So if I were to look now at myself and how I dress, for example, I have little skinny legs, so I often wear pants. I rarely wear short skirts or anything, that shows my legs from the knee down. And that really came back from when I was in elementary school. And the guys, there was this record out by this guy named Joe Tex, and it was called Skinny Legs and All.
I remember
and it
that.
was like nobody wanted the girl with the skinny legs. And it was like, Leroy, you take her. And so this song is still in my head, as old as I am now, from what the kids used to tease me about when I was in junior high school.
They used to call me Twiggy, so I got that.
And that was a good thing to be in the 60s, right?
No, you know what? It was not popular to be skinny in the 60s. And I was skinny. I mean, I was a green bean. You turned me sideways, they would call me Zipper if I stuck out my tongue. So,
oh, no, that's terrible. And you see how that sticks with you, and it's still there. Because if it wasn't healed, you wouldn't if it was healed, you would not even remember it.
Oh, really?
Yes, and that's the joy of this workshop, is that you bring up memories, and then we ask the Ascended Masters, the saints, to help us. The two that I'm working with the most are St. Francis. You remember St. Francis from the Catholic Church, who had all the animals around him and really loved talking to them and healing people?
Yeah.
And then if you go from the Hindu religion, we do a lot of work with Lord Krishna, who is the Eastern equivalent of the Christ, the cosmic Christ. And so those two masters, Ascended Masters or saints, have said they would help us to heal our psychology. And so that's what we use in this workshop. We bring up these stories, and then we do prayers to Cthulhu or St. Francis, and mantras to Krishna.
So St. Francis and Cthulhu were the same soul, you might say. And I know Madame Blavatsky, I've studied some of her material, and Cthulhu was one of her great teachers. And she, and her and Elizabeth Clare Prophet, I'm familiar with as well, said that he was the great master psychologist, and that is what he graduated on. He had such an understanding of psychology, elemental life psychology, people psychology, that he became a great master Cthulhu of psychology.
Isn't that wonderful?
I think he was Pythagoras too, and Pythagoras is the one who developed some of the mathematical sciences, such as the harmonics and numerology and things like that.
And doesn't he play the organ?
I heard that.
I mean, just think of what organ music does to make you feel better about yourself and being in the world, and
it's
just
deep.
Makes you feel really good to hear it. At least it does me.
Oh man, it's deep stuff. What is it, Wagner? Wagner's Deep, that organ piece that he did. Oh my gosh, that is.
I love Wagner.
Yeah.
You either love him or hate him, though.
That's true.
It's not up middle of the road music. It's very strong.
Right. So what do you use Cthulhu to do in the realm of healing your psychology? Well,
here's his dispensation. Let me read it to you so our listeners can think about anything that might be coming up for them that they're ashamed of. I mean, whether it's you've been married 30 years and you don't want to walk around naked in front of your husband or wife. I mean, that's shame too, right?
Oh my gosh.
So what Cthulhu says is...
That's embarrassing is what that is.
It can be embarrassing, but if it is, it's shame. Because you're trying to hide yourself, right?
I see.
So think about that, and then think about St. Francis standing before you, and you say to him, in the name of my mighty I am presence and holy Christ self, I make my determination to transcend my former self, and I call to beloved Cthulhu to tutor me through my own heart and any messenger you may send my way for the healing of my physical health and my psychology. I accept this done today according to God's holy will. Amen.
What is it in your own being? You can walk into the room with no clothes on, your husband's standing there, and you're uncomfortable and awkward about it. is that is totally your own doing, or is that a fact that your husband might go, look, you're 80 years old, your body's a little saggy, could you kind of not dress her, What, who's the guilty one there?
Both of us are, because if our husband said that to us and we didn't have any shame, we wouldn't care.
Ah.
We'd walk around naked anyway and say, I know I'm beautiful. This is the body God gave me, and whatever shape it's in, it's gorgeous. Thank you very much, husband. I love you too.
So, and if this is a very interesting thing, because I do many, 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 many charts. Charts that have to do with marriage, that have to do with, what is going on between a couple at the intimate level. And I hear this all the time where things, their husbands are complaining about their bodies being a little bit fatter, or just saying things they shouldn't be saying. Is there something in that psychology? Shouldn't they be loving the soul and not be so focused on the body? What's that about?
Yes and yes. So part of it is about your spouse wanting to keep up appearances to the outside world. And our spouses, let's face it, we connect on every level: spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. And the older we get, the more our focus is on spiritual. So if you're 80 years old and your husband is still concerned about how you look, then there's some real questions about how deep is this relationship and how much have you really learned to love, know, and support one another.
What if you're only 30 years old?
Well, at 30, you kind of expect people to be more aware of those kinds of things and not to have matured sufficiently to say they don't matter. But the bottom line is, it doesn't matter what any of us look like. It doesn't matter what skin color we have. It doesn't matter what body type we have. What is most important is our soul, which is inside.
But so that's what I'm asking is it shame for the woman to take that kind of abuse from a man, a statement like that? Oh my God, put your clothes on, you look terrible.
It is shame. Her shame allows her to do that, and he is shaming her. So when we have these what are called introjects, an introject is something you started to believe about yourself that somebody else told you.
Oh.
So if you've had these introjects from being little and you don't believe you're beautiful, and then your husband says things to reinforce that, then he is keeping that negative belief alive inside of you, and you are continuing to buy into it. And that's why you come to my workshop, so you can start to take away those layers and get rid of that feeling that how I look is the most important thing in life, because we've gotten that from our society. We get these messages in advertisements, in television, everywhere we go, billboards. Women who are beautiful are thin. They have a, certain facial structure, certain kind of hair. And so we measure ourselves against this external standard of beauty, which has nothing to do with what's the most important, which is how beautiful are you on the inside? How kind are you? How loving are you?
Well, the question that I get from my clients is, should I leave my husband because I don't feel that way about myself?
Well, I don't think it's that simple. I think there's a whole lot of reasons why they're there, other than they're getting something out of that relationship. So the question for me would be, have you spoken to your husband? Does he know how this makes you feel? What is it about him that makes him feel that he can only feel good in this relationship if he puts you down?
Now, is that a shame on the man's part? Would that be a shame, some form of shame?
Yes,
shaming
other people is part of our carrying our own shame.
Oh, my gosh, that's interesting.
Yes, so my guess is the husband is feeling ashamed of something. It may not be his body. It could be how much money he made or didn't make, because men are often, their self-esteem and self-concept is so tied to their work. So it could be something totally different from him. And maybe, she takes digs at him about that.
That's true. Like attracts like, and everybody's a cosmic mirror to you and reflects back to you something you should work on inside yourself.
Patterns that we have of shaming shaming other people and hiding our own shame are the patterns that we start to come in contact with in this workshop to understand what am I doing to reinforce the shame that I began to believe in when I was less than 7 years old? And so you start like peeling layers off an onion, start to take off the outer layer, and then you get to a deeper layer, and you keep finding out more where the source of these things are.
I remember when I was little hearing my mom say, children are to be seen and not heard. That was like kind of a mantra in our house. Is that?
Yeah, my grandmother said that. I hated going to her house at Christmas. We went every Christmas to North Carolina from Ohio. And my great-grandmother, that was her
mantra.
Children are to be seen and not heard. So when you got to the dinner table, you just sat there and ate and didn't say a word.
And I'm like, Mom, don't you know that you've got a child that will be talking for a living? And you're telling me to be quiet at the age of 4? Are you nuts?
Yeah, at the age of 4, we can't say that. We don't know enough to say that at the age of 4 usually.
Yeah, it depends on who you are.
Yeah, did you say that at 4?
Oh, I'm sure I said a lot.
I said things too, but I got hit for them, so I stopped saying them.
That's true. That's true, and that's probably another thing that causes shame in people, right? Being smacked when you say something you shouldn't say.
Yes.
Even if
or never being quite good enough. Maybe you got good grades, but you brought home one not-so-great grade, and everybody focused on that instead of the good ones.
Yeah.
Or you had to clean your room, and you missed one little part, and so you got shamed for missing that part rather than applauded for cleaning up 90% of it.
Wow.
We have a tendency to focus on the negatives instead of on the positives. And in transforming our shame into worthiness, we have to start focusing on the positives that are here, that are right within us, that are right in front of us when we look at the mirror.
I did an astrological prediction radio show. I usually do once a month, and I sent out my predictions a couple of days ago and the first thing that I said is, okay, Mercury is going retrograde in Virgo, and what that means is that every negative thought you have is a big fat lie. And you should remove it and guard your thoughts, because sometimes your thoughts are not your own. They're projected upon you. And,
that's true.
It's amazing that planets can also stir up our records inside ourselves. In the Catholic tradition, Mother Mary's always seen as standing on the moon, mastering her emotions, and I believe the moon pulls on our tides. We're 75 to 90% water, so our moods go up and down all day long, and you can actually clock them and see when you're going to be vulnerable to feel shame, and then realize it's coming, and instead of feeling it, resist the gravitational pull to go down and reprogram yourself. I don't know.
And if you're a Cancer like me, you're very subject to the moon and its phases.
Well, you're the mom, too. You want to take care of everybody. That's probably why you're a doctor. That's why you're a doctor. Hippocrates said a man cannot call himself a physician unless he knows the astrology of the patient. Yeah, that's pretty important because it's the record. It shows the human condition. The human condition is not the divine condition.
No.
Kind of like we're on the same page because you do something that's very dear to my heart.
Yes. What else shall I tell you about shame in this short time that we have together? I'll tell you how shame manifests. If you don't think you have any shame, then you are a person who is probably walking around very wise, very confident, and very powerful.
Really?
Yes, I think of shame as manifesting as low self-esteem, or manifesting as low self-efficacy, which is a lack of power. I don't know that I can create the conditions I want to create in my world. And low self-confidence, low wisdom, low knowledge. So if you feel any lack in any of those areas, there's probably some shame underneath some of that, because if you believe that God created all of us and that God is in all of us, God is power, wisdom, and love personified. So the goal is to become those things, wise, powerful, and loving.
Love, wisdom, and power. I'm for that. Definitely
yes.
for them.
And I think when you stop having shame, you start treating other people better. Because if you are ashamed then you're going to pass that on to whomever you interact with, especially children. When I started this work, I felt really bad about my parents at first because I thought, well, they're the reason I have low self-esteem and no self-confidence and all these kinds of things. Realized after a while that they can't teach what they don't know.
Right.
So they had low self-esteem and low self-confidence also. And so it becomes a cycle passed on from generation to generation to generation. And we have to decide at some point to break that cycle.
You are what you think. And
I thought you are what you eat.
That too. You know, I actually think what you eat, every time you bend that elbow and open your mouth and put something in there, it also comes out at some level of shame if you are on that dark side, or if you're going with that gravitational pull of going down rather than going up. And I think your body's your temple, your heart's your altar. That's where you go in to find all the joy that possibly could be summoned in the realm of your existence. So if you're feeding yourself a lot of junk, you know, you're clogging up the ability to just sing all the time. Personal.
I agree, and I'm
story.
also guilty of that.
Yeah. Well.
How many of us are stress eaters? We get emotionally out of balance and we eat, or we stop eating altogether. It's usually one or the other.
And it's a perpetual wheel, because then your husband says, oh my God, don't take your clothes off.
Or you say that when you look in the mirror. Yeah. I look in the mirror and think, who is that person? That's not me.
That's nothing to do
I look like I did when I was 24.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like I look like I was when I was 24. Actually, more like 16. I'm a Leo, so Leos are children forever.
Yes. And so one of the ways to program yourself into starting to believe that you are who you were intended to be when you were created. I mean, do you believe in your heart of hearts that you have a mission on this earth, that you have a gift that no one else can give to this planet, and that you really, really want to figure out what that is and give it to the world?
And everybody does have a unique mission and a divine plan. And you can see a lot of that.
Has one.
You can see that in the charts, in the astrology charts. If you know your time, date, and place of birth, you can actually get what direction you should be going objectively. Mm-hmm. Now, you have free will choice to be or not to be, and that is the question.
Yes.
But you also have this record that shows where your talents lie. It's kind of amazing. So,
yes.
You know, I think shame can be overcome by looking at your chart and getting objective, and then plucking out all the dandelions in your head that you forgot to pick when you were little, that are the weeds of the stuff your parents said, the stuff the mean kids at school said.
Yes.
And none of it's real.
Well, it feels real, though, to the people that it's happening to.
Yeah, but that's the emotional body, which I believe, like we were talking earlier about Mother Mary standing on. You know that story in the Bible about Peter walking on the water?
Yeah.
And he kept sinking in, and Jesus had to give him his light or his hand to help him hold him up.
Yes.
I think all of us are supposed to learn to walk on the water, to become pure light energy, and not let these human conditions and ugly lies that go across the screen of their brain, pull us into the water.
Yes, and Mother Mary has an affirmation that we talk about has a practice that she asked us to do in order to help heal ourselves. And Mother Mary said that when you pray, ask her, look at yourself in the mirror, look into your own eyes, and say, purify all past perceptions of my own imperfections.
Ooh.
Yes, purify all past perceptions of my own imperfections.
Say that one more time.
Purify all past perceptions of my own imperfections.
I love it.
Yeah, so Mother Mary is trying to help us with this, too. She's so wonderful. And if you start to do this work, one of my cautions about this is to make sure that you find someone whom you totally trust and love. Because as long as shame is a hidden emotion, it continues to control you subconsciously and unconsciously. However, if you share your journey with somebody who doesn't totally support you, it can cause more harm than good. So if you start wanting to work on your shame, just saying this mantra in the mirror every morning to yourself, and you want to share it with someone, share it to someone whom you know has your best interest at heart. Someone who loves you and wants to help you and support you in whatever you choose to do. We all need people like that in our lives.
Absolutely. So you're saying share the mantra or share the problems that you have?
You're going to have to share the shame eventually, because as long as it's hidden, it continues to control. Part of the process of healing is not hiding it anymore.
Have you ever heard of this concept where we have the wounded child, we have the critical parent, and then we have the creative child, and we have the loving parent? Parents inside of us. I love that concept where whenever I feel pain, I look to my wounded child and go, stop, it's okay, I love you, you're going to be fine. And then I start creating something. I'll start going in and trying to find some magic that I can do in my work or whatever,
Yeah, so you're being a loving parent to your inner child who is hurt.
Yeah, it's like we got control of that. We can work. And I think there's a great author, Leadbeater. I can't think of his first name. Do you know who I'm talking about? Leadbeater?
I do.
He wrote a book. I can't even think of the name of that book. Oh my gosh. That talked about this, where you could literally work to transform everything. As long as you're working and you're working with love and you're whistling while you work, you got it covered. You can overcome. I don't know. What do you think? You're the doctor.
I think that we all can overcome anything. We are never given a test that we cannot pass.
That's true.
So we may not have the tools to know how to do the work, which is part of what the workshop is about. These are the tools that will help you do this work. And we don't always have a safe place in which to do the work, because I don't think anyone learns and grows in a place where they are fearful or uncomfortable.
Where are your workshops being put on?
I will be in Phoenix, Arizona.
How can people get a hold of you so that they can get involved in this?
They can call me at 972-418-1957. That's 972-418-1957.
Can you say that one more time?
972-418-1957.
Dr. Patricia, you know what? I think you're a kindred spirit. I just think I have such a connection with you. I just love the fact that I've had you on this show. I want to have you come back and talk more deeply about things like this if you're game.
That would be wonderful. This has been great.
And the world needs this so bad. We have so many people out there walking around in pain. You have no idea. Yeah, I guess you do. You do it for a living.
I do. And we're going to be in Phoenix the 24th and the 25th of this month.
I tell you what, all you listeners out there, just give her a call, and she can tell you where the next workshop is, and maybe she'll come to your city.
So your listeners can contact the Summit Lighthouse of Phoenix about the workshop on the 24th and the 25th of this month. And if they go on their email and type Summit Lighthouse Phoenix, all one word, at gmail.com. So that's SUMMITLIGHTHOUSEPHOENIX at gmail.com. Or they can call the Phoenix Summit Lighthouse at 480-442-5020. Again, that's 480-442-5020.
And one more time. 480-442-5020.
for that workshop, which is Saturday, September 24th from 9 to 5, and Sunday, September 25th from 12:30 to 6.
Dr. Parham, I am so grateful to have had you on my show, and I